Hello.
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 Hi there.
Hello and welcome to the RadioTimes.com podcast. This week we'll be looking at the Premier League fixtures on TV this weekend. My name is Michael Potts, sport editor of RadioTimes.com, and today I'm joined by Mr. Lee Stobbs, features editor of Match of the Day magazine.
Good afternoon, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good stuff. We'll dive straight in. We have a Friday night game, so there's no time to lose. First up, it's Southampton versus Bournemouth. It's on Friday night at 8 o'clock kickoff. It's on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. Feels like a bit of a strange derby, really.
It is a strange derby, isn't it?
Is it a derby? Can we call it a derby? But
I think we can just about class it as a derby.
Let's go with it. I think I read some stuff from Eddie Howe before where he's trying to spice it up and actually sort of manufacture it into a derby, which is
I think this game needs
odd
a bit of spice because two mixed teams that have had mixed starts. So I think if we just label it a derby, we might get some fireworks.
Let's go with that. I think, you're building on that, I guess. I think Bournemouth are one of these teams who there's not a great deal in the with no disrespect, there's not a great deal to play for in the middle of the table, and so when games like this come along, you've kind of got to, I don't know, it's something to win. And I know that probably sounds like quite a bleak assessment on Bournemouth, but you know they're not going to get into Europe this season, barring something incredible happening, really.
Exactly. I think for a team like Bournemouth, they're not going to get in the top 6 or top 4. I think everyone knows that. So for these sorts of games, which can be classed as derbies, I think they've got to win them. These are the big games for them. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were always labelled, sorry Ketch, but we were always labelled pretty sad for treating some of the Newcastle games as cup finals. But essentially, there's not a lot else to play for, so you might as well win them all.
They are the games that the fans want to win the most.
Absolutely. What have you made of these two teams so far? We'll start with Southampton. Look pretty decent at the back.
Yeah, Southampton had a reasonable start, pretty solid in defence, but we need to talk about Moussa Djenepo. Okay, 21 years old, signed for just £14 million, 13 caps for his country, and 2 very good goals for Southampton already. He obviously had the one from outside the box against Brighton, and the one he scored the other day was just brilliant. He took on about 3 players under pressure, brilliant ball control and just strength, and it was a really good goal. Whisper it, but I think they found the new Mane.
Hot takes right here in the studio of dreams. We found the new Sadio Mane, people. He took the goals so well. It's whether he can do that over a whole season, but he's not done much wrong so far.
Exactly, and with Nathan Redmond out as well, I think he's going to be even more important for them. Yeah,
I was a little bit worried actually because I think Redmond he's one of these inconsistent characters, but he's still got quality, match-winning quality about him. So it's great that Djenepo's had a chance to come into it and he's taken it so far.
Exactly.
Also nice to see Shea Adams back involved. I know he got sent off, which wasn't the greatest start to his Premier League time. He was very unlucky not to score twice last week. I think, if anything, they probably need that little bit of cutting edge, so it's probably a good thing that Shea Adams is back and looks sharp.
Exactly, he's been playing well, I think, apart from his red card. Obviously I think his link-up play has been good. I think he's just missing that goal, and I think he said it in an interview after the game that when his first goal comes, I think more will come. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but I think he is playing well and he's just missing that goal.
Yeah, and where better to score it than the enormous Saints Cherries derby.
Exactly.
Moving on to Bournemouth, that was a good win against Everton. I think Everton are a strange team at the minute, but that's such a good win on the board for them.
It's a really good win. Everton spent a lot of money and they're just kind of some big Premier League names in there that they've brought in, and as you say, it was a really good win from Wilson. Took 2 very well taken goals, but the one thing Bournemouth have got going against them in this game is that they've never won away at Southampton in 15 attempts in all competitions. So they'll be eager to stop that.
Good luck. What's your predictions for this one? I'm going with an entertaining draw is what I've got on my notes here.
That's exactly what I've put. 3-3 thriller.
Great minds. So don't blame us if it's a 0-0 stinker. Moving on to Saturday's games, we have Leicester versus Tottenham on BT Sport 1. That's a 12:30 kickoff. Again, both teams look pretty decent this time around. Start with Leicester. I feel like they're just sort of in second and third gear, and that's kind of fine for now. But they've been pretty solid at the back. I know they lost 1-0 at Old Trafford the other day. A lot of bigger teams have gone to Old Trafford and been turned over. So I think it's probably not the end of the world that they've kept it fairly tight. I'd be interested to see once Perez, Maddison, Tielemans, once they all properly click. I still feel like they're maybe playing a little bit within themselves. Could be a bit more freedom for them to get forward.
I'd agree with that. I think Leicester are playing well. I think they've got a lot of decent players, but I think, like you say, they're just not kicked into gear. And I think they've actually got so many good players for Leicester these days that they've not actually found a system that works to fit them all, to have them all in the team. And sometimes it's a case of not just fitting them all in for the sake of it, but finding a system that actually works for the players and using them off the bench wisely. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we'll come to them in a little while, but I think West Ham probably suffering a similar thing. Maybe again, they've had a decent start of the season, but they have so many attacking midfield options. It's kind of, it's not necessarily picking the best three. It's about, picking the three who are going to actually sort of get the job done.
Exactly, and I think there's been a lot of noise about Leicester being a new sort of top six contender, and I think they might be suffering from that a little bit. So I think this is a game where they just need to take it seriously. They suffered a bit of a setback against Man United. Well, you say setback, obviously that game against Man United's a big game, but it was kind of just a little stab at that. The people saying that they can make the top six. So this is a big game against another top six team, which they need to prove themselves.
Absolutely, and that moves us nicely on to Spurs. So Leicester will not be relishing the prospect of Harry Kane coming against them. He scored 11 times against them since their promotion in 2014. That's every 58 minutes he scores against Leicester.
Pretty impressive.
I find those stats always quite funny. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's anything behind them, whether Kane just hates the colour blue or what it is. But yeah, he seems to love playing against them, and they'll be hoping that picks up again this weekend.
That's right. I think he scored his first ever hat-trick in the Premier League against Leicester as well.
He did,
that's right.
He did, yes.
And the bad news for Leicester as well, I think, is that Son's in form now, and he seems to make Harry Kane a much better player. So.
I think we all kind of forgot a little bit about Son. He was obviously suspended for the start of the season. Maybe it feels like he's almost in pre-season mode, kind of, just sort of building his way back into the team. But I mean, he looked sharp as anything the other day. That volley was something else technique-wise.
Yeah, Son's a brilliant player. I think he used to be quite underrated, but now I think he's held in quite high regard in the Premier League. I think it's no surprise as well that Tottenham have vastly improved since the transfer window closed. Saw them sort of things that were going on with Toby and Eriksen. They've all sort of shut down now. So we're all resting until the next transfer window.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're doing much better now, and I think they're quite a settled team now.
Yeah, it's nice. And also a bit of a shout out for Eric Lamela, who I think when he came in, so he came in to kind of replace Gareth Bale, who came with that money, didn't he, back in the day. And it's hard to say that he's been a wild success there, but he's a useful player to have. And you've got, let's say, Son, Eriksen, Dele Alli's coming back at some point. Lamela is still finding these opportunities and still taking them when they come along.
Yeah, he's actually an underrated player as well. I think he does a job as an attacker which a lot of other attackers don't do. He gets back a lot, does a lot of running, a lot of tracking back, a lot of tackles. So Lamela's been quite important for them.
Yeah, another word on Spurs as well. Nice to see them. They win 4-0 last week against Crystal Palace. No Kane or Eriksen on the score sheet, and Kane had one assist. Eriksen hasn't quite got going. Whether he's still a little bit unsettled, who knows? But as long as somebody's coming up with the goals,
exactly.
Don't think Pochettino's going to mind. So I'm going with a draw for this one. Again, I'm getting sore from sitting on the fence here. But I feel like a low-scoring draw. I think it's going to be quite tight. I think Leicester will want that point against a top six team. But yeah, either side, I guess, could nick it.
I've, again, put down exactly the same. I've put that Tottenham have got a little bit more in the locker, but ultimately Leicester are very competitive these days. Home advantage, I think, 1-1.
Next up on Saturday, we have the 5:30 kickoff. It's on Sky Sports Premier League and main event, Newcastle versus Brighton. Two strange teams to judge so far, I guess. They both had a big win each. Newcastle against Spurs, and Brighton on the opening day they hammered Watford 3-0. I haven't been able to put too much on the board since for either of them.
No, do you know what I'm going to say? I feel sorry for Newcastle, and Ketch hasn't paid me to say that. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
They had a very tough start. They had Liverpool, Tottenham and Arsenal. They've got a bunch of new players, and they've got the joint most injuries in the league, and especially to key players as well. I think this is the game now where they just need to hit the reset button and really try and go for the win here, because after this game as well, they've got some tough games coming up with Leicester, Man United and Chelsea, so it's not getting any easier for Newcastle, and this is a game that I think they really need to get some points in.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a tale of two halves for Newcastle. They look all right at the back. They look pretty resolute. They're a tough nut to crack, I suppose. it's just finding the net has been a real struggle for them so far. I think Joe Linton's probably not settled as well as he would have liked. Obviously, there's so much time left. He could turn into a raving success. They've had 8 shots per game. That's the lowest of any Premier League team this season. You kind of just want somebody, a bit like Williams the other day, to just get a foot on the ball and have a go. Just take a chance.
I think in the games I've seen Newcastle play this season, the gaps seem to be quite big between defence and attack, with Almiron and Joe Linton trying to create something between them. But I think in the last game, they were a little bit better against Liverpool. They didn't have a lot of possession, but I expected Liverpool to batter Newcastle. And I don't think they did. Possession-wise, they did. But in terms of the actual play, when Newcastle did have the ball, I think they played quite well.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity to build on that against what you'd say a lesser team.
Yeah, I was going to say the games against Liverpool are almost, you can write them off and a points of bonus or collateral damage limitation.
That's
collateral damage. But I guess these are the games where they're at home against a side who haven't particularly found top gear yet in Brighton, and they've kind of just got to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and really press home.
Also, this weekend could be the return of Andy Carroll.
Ooh.
Apparently, if he trains well all week, he'll be on the bench, and he's still in training. So
quite excited to see that. And I think when you talk about grabbing games by the scruff of the neck, who else do you want? Yeah, exactly. If they can keep him fit, I think he could be in for a decent year. But if you keep Andy Carroll fit, is
you just never know.
Nigh on impossible. Moving on to Brighton. Again, started so well with that win over Watford. I feel like it wasn't actually that great an achievement given how Watford have performed since.
Exactly. I think Brighton are playing quite well. They're just not quite getting going. They've obviously got a new manager, and I think their style's slightly changing. So there's a bit of a transition period, but it's all about momentum at the start of the Premier League. And if you're not getting points, the pressure's going to start to build, as Watford saw. Hence why their manager had to leave. So again, this is a big problem for them as well. And I think Brighton can cause Newcastle problems, but it's a really big game for both teams here. Yeah,
I looked before the season. I was previewing Brighton, and Graham Potter's an interesting addition to the backroom staff, obviously, and he's one of those. He's not a firefighter manager. He's not the Allardyce who's going to come in and just guarantee survival. He's a long-term project, and you can almost write off the season in a sense. We're not necessarily going to get top 6, top 8, top 10 this season, but we're building for the future. But you still got to put those points on the board this time around to give yourself another shot at the Premier League.
That's it. I think Brighton obviously let go of Chris Hughton last season because they wanted to improve. So while they'll probably accept the transition period, I think they do want to improve. They don't want to go down. They need to stay in the league. Just got to hope he does well, I guess.
Yeah, that one goes. Predictions for this one?
I think Newcastle really realised the importance of this game for them, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
Yeah, I think based on, this is Newcastle at home against a team who should be finishing around their level, I think we'll go for Steve Bruce to get his first home win. Moving on to West Ham, Manchester United. That's 2:00 on Sunday, Sky Sports Premier League and main event. Tasty little game, this one. I think we've already brought up the subject of West Ham's many attacking midfielders. I guess they're one of these teams who, if they all click at the same time, they could batter anybody pretty much. I think Yarmolenko, Anderson, got even people like Wilshere. I know he's injured and stuff, but once they're all on top form and firing, they could beat anyone in the league.
That's it. I think West Ham have quietly gone about their business, getting good players in their squad. And I actually think they're only a few good players away from in another transfer window from actually being a really, really good side that could push for the top 6. I think there's been a few people that have said they could potentially push for it this season. I think that's a little bit too early, but I think they could definitely beat a few of the big teams. And I think they've got a good chance against Man United, who've got some injury concerns. Yeah,
I think Seb Haller up front as well. I had the unfortune of watching Aston Villa West Ham the other night.
Yeah, I did as well.
Bizarre game, that one. The Anwar El Ghazi show. Yeah. Just putting his head everywhere, including his captain's face. But yeah, I thought Haller actually, for all it was a 0-0 draw, he actually put himself around. His build-up play was good. I think he sort of put Wesley to shame a little bit. I think Wesley looked quite passive up front for Villa, whereas Haller was not afraid to get himself in the mix. And when you have a strike like that, they're always going to cause some problems. If your supporting cast is ready to pick up the scraps and fire them home.
That's it. They were playing a few long balls in that game, West Ham, when they weren't going around the sides with Lanzini and Yarmolenko. But he holds the ball up quite well. And he was bringing the players in well, giving it out to the sides. I think he's good. I think there's a lot of new strikers in the Premier League this season, particularly big ones like you say, Wesley, big sort of players that are expected to hold it up. And I think Haller's been probably the most impressive out of the lot so far. Yeah,
well, it's this shift, isn't it? I guess everyone plays with a lone striker now, or the majority plays with this lone striker, and it's getting the right one in there. It's sort of the fashionable item to have. This year's must have, an enormous lump. Moving on, Man United, Harry Maguire did the business the other day, proving his justifying his price tag.
He is a brilliant player, and we know that, but I think this is the time to kick on for him now. He wanted his big move, he got it, so now's the time to really show that he is up there with Van Dijk as one of the best defenders in the world.
It was interesting. I watched the Man City Norwich game, and you're watching John Stones on one hand, you're watching Maguire in the United game. You really see what calmness Maguire brings to proceedings. He never looks panicked, never looks like he's under a great deal of pressure, even if he is. And just calmly coming out of defence is something that United have lacked for so many years, probably since Alex Ferguson left.
That's it. I think he doesn't mind doing both sides of the game. He plays really well on the ball, and he doesn't mind a big tackle, a big header. So he's a perfect defender from what Man United have needed over the last few years.
Yeah, and credit to Lindelof as well. Victor Lindelof, who has not had the easiest time coming into this United team. He finally looks like he's starting to bed in well and really, like I say, partner Maguire very well at the back. Obviously, David De Gea, new contract. Is he worth it?
I don't think Man United had many options, to be fair. They've got quite a good clutch of keepers there. They've got Dean Henderson out on loan, but I think they just needed to sign him up, really. They haven't got any more options right now. I don't think, well, to be honest, I don't think he's got many options right now.
Yeah, that's
I think all the big teams have got decent keepers right now. I think he realised that I need to stay here.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to do with 350 grand a week.
He could easily be captain, though, I think, of United now. The years he's been there, what he brings to the team. He's had a few dodgy periods over the years, but ultimately we know he's a world-class goalkeeper.
Obviously, as well, it's nice to see United getting a win without Paul Pogba in the middle as well. I mean, he's such a big player for them, and just to grind out a 1-0 win, clean sheet, just done the job well against a good team. That must be really sort of confidence building for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
That's it. And Fred came on as well off the bench, and I thought he did really well. I think he's had a bit of a tough start to his Man United career, especially with such a big price tag, which may be a factor. But I think he came on, calmed the game down a little bit against a good Leicester side in their last game. So it could be time for Fred.
I love watching, like, I think I mentioned this earlier in the season, but Soyuncu, who actually gave away a penalty at the weekend. But it's nice to see players like that who they come in for big money, don't particularly get any game time, any chance at all in the first season, but they're still clearly a decent player, and it's nice to see them get a chance. So go on, Fred.
Exactly.
We're rooting for you,
good
boy.
Luck to you.
Yeah, good luck to the lad. What are we going for this one? It's a tricky one to call, but
it's a really tricky one. I've seen that Man United have got a few injury concerns with Daniel James, Paul Pogba, Martial and Luke Shaw not training this week. I've just got a sneaky feeling that West Ham might nick this 1-0. Purely based on the fact that West Ham haven't won at Old Trafford since 2007, when Carlos Tevez scored that goal to keep them up. I just think it's going to happen again.
2007. Yeah. Well, I've gone opposite with you on this one. I think United are going to nick this one. I think, like I say, if West Ham flick the switch, they could beat pretty much anyone in that league. Just think United would be boosted by that clean sheet the other day. I think if you've got Maguire and Lindelof sitting and doing their job well, McTominay as well, he's such a good player, underrated in that sitting role. Just be nice to see them actually grind out another 1-0 win, just rather than this extreme winning 4-0, losing 3-1. Just a nice solid performance, nice solid win on the road. But yeah,
I think Solskjaer would agree with you there.
Got you sorted, Ollie. Moving on to the second part of Super Sunday, we have Chelsea versus Liverpool, Reds versus Blues. It's Sky Sports Premier League and main event. It's a 4:30 kickoff. I mean, it's the game of the week, isn't it?
It is.
Did you watch either of their games last night at all?
I watched a little bit of Liverpool, but I was mainly watching Dortmund-Barcelona last night, which was a big mistake at 0-0.
Yeah. Well, what do you make about this whole Ross Barkley? I don't want to dwell on it too long because it's another one of these storm in a teacup situations. But what do you make of all of that?
To be honest, it all depends on who's been told is the penalty taker. I think if Ross Barkley's been told he's the penalty taker in the changing room, then that's fair enough. And I think it's on Willian. He shouldn't be doing that. But again, on the flip side, if Willian's a penalty taker, then Ross Barkley's wrong.
Yeah, just felt like a bit of a lack of leadership, didn't it? Just needed a captain to come in and say, you
Exactly.
you are a penalty
I agree.
taker, take that penalty. Obviously put him off a bit and he smacks the bar, poor Ross. But on the other hand, we have Tomori, Mount and Tammy Abraham tearing it up last weekend against Wolves.
Yeah, we can't really talk about Chelsea without talking about their young players.
Phenomenal.
Tammy Abraham's been brilliant. I'm not sure a lot of people backed him in this Chelsea team, and I think he actually deserves a lot of credit. I think he probably had a lot of loan offers. I think he could have gone to Wolves on a permanent, but I think he kind of sussed out the situation at Chelsea. He realised that they've got a transfer ban. They didn't have a leading striker at the time. They only had Giroud, and he just kind of was patient and he could kind of backed himself, and now he's Chelsea's number one striker and dominating a lot of Premier League defences. So
I'm not saying it's ever a good time to get a transfer embargo, but if you were going to get one, it's probably this time round when you've got players like Mount, Abraham, and even Hudson-Odoi, who we're yet to see this season, who he could come in and do something similar. You never know.
exactly, promising.
I loved listening to Abraham actually after the Wolves game. He was pinching himself. He was beaming, and he was just pinching himself that he was actually on the pitch, let alone bagging hat-tricks. And obviously, him, Tomori, and Mount have grown up together. They've played through the youth teams. I think there was a great clip of the three of them leaving arm in arm at the end of the game. Love to see it. And it wasn't just like Abraham. It's not like he's just picking out on the goal line, just knocking them home tap-ins.
No.
He's actually scoring some great goals as well.
I think this is the sort of period now which Chelsea fans will be particularly loving. I don't think they'll even mind if there's not much success this season. I think a lot of Chelsea fans have always known that they've got a lot of decent young players, especially the ones that have been out on loan all this time. And they've needed a reason to play them all. We know that there's obviously a lot of pressure in the Premier League and in Europe to play your big signings and stuff. And this transfer ban, like you say, has been the perfect opportunity to kind of get them in the team, and it's working. So I think Chelsea fans will be buzzing.
Yeah, absolutely. Mason Mount picked up a bit of an injury last night, the tackle from Coquelin, so we'll see how that goes. I think I read this morning that it's not as bad as it seemed at the time, and that he's probably going to be fit for Liverpool.
Bad, but yeah.
It's one of those, hopefully it looked worse than it was. They'll be hoping he's back in no time. Moving on to Liverpool. Bit of a weird record in Europe. Lost the last 4 away games in the group stages. Haven't won a away game in the group stages since 2017, which is a bit of a strange one for the reigning champions of Europe.
I think last night can be put down as a bit of a blip. I think if you look at that, that's their hardest game in their group, especially away from home. Napoli played 4 very decent, dynamic, quick attackers. It's just a tough game, isn't it? I mean, they didn't get battered. There was kind of a questionable penalty and then just a little mistake from just the £70 million best defender in the world. But yeah,
loved the fickle nature of football punditry this week. I was listening last night and raving about Koulibaly for Napoli, saying he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And is he better than Van Dijk? Is he worth more than Van Dijk? Van Dijk's last year's news, just ridiculous, isn't it? Really, still fantastic defender, Van Dijk, and I don't think that'll affect him too much going into this weekend.
I don't think so at all. I think I'm a bit worried that the narrative's building for Liverpool a little bit. I think City dropping points, getting some big injuries to Stones and Laporte, everyone's a bit like, it could be Liverpool's year, but then Pep's probably just going to win it anyway. So if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd just settle down a little bit just because we know how it's gone recently. Yeah,
we'll see. It's going well so far, though. In the Premier League, exactly. 5 wins out of 5. Watched the Newcastle game last week, and Firmino was absolutely just a joy to watch. There's no other word for it. He was just so fun to watch play football. It's not just flicks for the fun of it. He was slicing Newcastle open with some back heels, just gorgeous to watch.
He has to be one of the most underrated players, not just in the Premier League, but maybe in the world over the last few years, I think. I don't think there's actually a player like him really in world football.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd actually particularly do well in many other teams in Europe. I think that he has grown with the Liverpool style over the years, and he's so instrumental to the way they play. I think if he was just taken out of that team and put into Real Madrid, say, I'm not sure he'd do as well. I think he kind of encapsulates what Liverpool do and the way they play with their wingers. So
yeah, he's not your main man out and out lead the line by himself striker, but you can just see him. He comes deep to collect the ball when he needs to. He'll be poaching in the box when he needs to. He'll drift out wide if he has to. But it's lovely to see him like sliding the balls through for Mane and Salah, who, I mean, it's easy when you've got Mane and Salah cutting in from either side of you. But he's still doing it really well, and I think think Trent Alexander-Arnold made a very good point after the game, saying he just connects the dots. He draws everything together from midfield to the wide men. Nobody's isolated when Firmino's on the pitch because he will find them.
I think I saw as well Van Dijk called him Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
He just said that he's always got the solutions, basically. He just pulls anything out and he can deal with any situation.
I'm a fan of that.
I think Liverpool fans have always known how good Firmino is, so I'm actually quite glad for him now that he's getting respect from other fans and they're kind of noticing how much of a good player he is.
Absolutely. Predictions for this one?
I think Chelsea are going to make a game of this, but I do think Liverpool are going to be very keen to bounce back from the midweek defeat. So I'm going to go for a 4-1 Liverpool.
Oof, big. I've gone for a bit bigger test for Liverpool than other games this season. I think, again, after seeing Norwich City, Norwich sort of went all out for City. I don't know whether Chelsea would ever find themselves being inspired by Norwich, but maybe the way to attack to go at Liverpool is to actually attack them. So I think it's going to be close, but
Yeah.
I think Liverpool probably just edge it.
Yeah.
No Monday Night Football due to the Friday Saints Cherries derby. But we have some fantasy Premier League tips for you this week, and I have never felt so underqualified to bring tips to you this week. I've dropped from in the top million, that's fine, out of 6 million.
I think I'm actually the same.
To about 3 millionth. It has been an absolute shocker.
We know what to do, we just can't implement it
Yeah,
into our own
exactly.
teams.
Listen to us. We know what we're doing. It just didn't work. I had 32 points, 13 from Aubameyang. I had Cantwell and Mount on the bench.
Oof.
So
yeah,
that did well. I've wildcarded. I've gone for it this week.
I think most people have at this early stage.
Yeah, I think my only advice for this week, not that you're going to listen to it, but is maybe lean away from the City Liverpool defenders. I think that there's so much money for Van Dijk, for if you want Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, City had a bit of a shocker last week. I'd probably lean away from piling all in on them and maybe spreading it around. You've got Southampton, Bournemouth, even Villa, potentially. They look quite good the other night. Mings looked very good.
Yeah.
They have some decent fixtures, and I think it's probably the time to maybe experiment with some cheaper options.
Yeah, I'm going to counter that a little bit and just say that I think people should get Nicolas Otamendi. He's only 5.4 million and he's only been selected by 2.3% of people. Now, usually in fantasy football, I'd say go for fullbacks because the assists, goals. But City have got lots of injuries at the moment at centre-back. He's going to play every game, and not only that, he's had the joint most shots inside the penalty area from a defender.
Nicolas
so he's a goal for it.
Otamendi. He had a shocker the other day, though. I think I actually picked him last week, and I selected him for the listeners. But yes, that went very wrong. Sorry. Any other shouts for us this week?
I can't not tell the listeners to get Moussa Djenepo after I raved about him in our little Southampton preview. He's 5.4 million and he's only selected by 0.2%, so he's a differential. If you've got Mason Mount and you need to swap him out, this is a decent cheap option. He's a goal threat. He's going to be in the team every week, so get him in.
I'm in a bit of a mix up between Djenepo and John McGinn.
Okay.
I watched again the other night. Villa not looking too great, but I'm absolutely all over John McGinn's policy of shoot at every opportunity. Like he could be in his own half and he's thinking, how can I score here? So
we've got a Villa fan on the Match Today team, and he calls him McGinniesta.
Love it, love it. I'm sold. I'm done. Yeah, excellent, nice one. Thank you very much, Lee. What's in Match of the Day magazine this week?
This week, Cristiano Ronaldo is on our cover to kick off our group guides for the Champions League. We've got 2 packs of 2019-20 match stacks cards, and we've got a list of most stylish football players.
Oh, any teasers?
Well, we've got Bellerin in there. Everyone knows what Bellerin
exactly.
styles, so he's in there. And there's some very questionable attire from Aubameyang, but see what you think.
Look forward to it. And as always, radiotimes.com has your full roundup of Premier League, Champions League and Europa League previews, as well as, well, we're doing quite a bit on the Rugby World Cup coming up if any of you want to ditch football for a week, But come and join us. We have all the previews for all the events coming up. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.